All right, welcome to Bid Nerds. Is it a total disaster for sellers on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, and PCAR Market? We are going to talk about that, see if we can answer the question. We're going to make some predictions and go over the predictions that we made on the last episode. Disaster might be the word of the day. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your YouTube card game show. Okay, welcome to Bid Nerds, everyone. My name is John Polnick. I'm your host for the next hour for Bid Nerds. I'm coming to you live from the downtown container park at the Rami studio, along with my partner Michael Deeb in San Francisco.
JP?
How you doing, buddy?
Woohoo! I'm
Yeah,
good,
you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's go. Who's in
All
the
right.
house?
We do. We have a guest. We have Bart Cops, camper chef. What's going on, Bart?
Hey, how are you? Doing good.
You made it, boy. Thanks for making it last minute. We set this up like a week ago, but we all just kind of forget stuff, and you made it down just in the nick of time. So thanks for making it. It's good to have you here, and we will get a chance to kind of update everyone on who Bart is here in a little bit. But first, we want to get right to it. What is going on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, PCAR Market? Is it a total disaster out there? Looking at the results of the predictions that we made from the last episode, that was Sunday night. We do this live twice a week, as you guys know, Sundays and Wednesday nights at 6:30. Boy, some of the results are pretty disastrous, and I think we're going to start with the first one. Michael D, what's the first car on the list?
JP immediately circling back to the 1977 Porsche 911S IROC Tribute with a 3.3-liter twin-plug engine. John, this is an ex-race car that is listed out of Miami, Florida, where it was raced regionally down there and on PCAR Market. A 964 block that has been turned into a smaller displacement short-stroke engine. By all accounts, is very exciting, but the full roll cage, I think, is going to make this car DOA. So, JP, despite loving the car, I don't think they did enough to return this car to a road car for the street. So I gave a very low bid of just $85,000, where I suspected this car would fail to sell. John, you took the over, but agreed with me on the FTS, coming in at $99,911. And Gerd, everybody's favorite Yahtzee king, Gerd was in studio with us, and Gerd took the over, but also agreed that his number would fail to sell at just $112,000. Bart, we're going to put you right on the spot. This was a former race car that they rebuilt the motor to run on pump gas, but they did not take out the full roll cage. It's a gorgeous build and an exciting drive, but as a road car, it's too extreme, in my opinion. What do you think this car would have hammered for on PCAR Market just the other day?
Well, I hope for the seller that it will hammer for close to $100,000. This is not a car that everybody likes. People like me, we love originality. I think this car would sell for $72,500.
$72,500. That's and not a bad guess. So basically, Bart's taking the under on my bid. JP, I think you wind up being closest, as the car hammered at $105,000, where it failed to sell. Our car is now in the chum bucket. It was, so JP, you saw it listed in the chum bucket for $185,000. The chum bucket has been updated to reflect a new asking price of $169,900. So from 185, they're basically down to 170, but they only, the audience gave this car $105,000. John, I do think the car would have made more money on, let's say, Bring a Trailer, but the 170, let's forget the 185 that he initially asked for. The 170 he's looking for today, I don't think it would have made that number on BAT. This car is just, it's something that if you were a member at a track like Spring Mountain or something, and you had all the money and you could just run this car only on the track, that would make a lot of sense. But this is a street car. Nobody's buying it, and certainly not the Bid Nerds. So what do you think, JP?
Yeah, there's no doubt that this car needed to be adapted for the street a little better. It's too race car-y. They had to remove that roll bar in order to get any kind of money. And the fact that they realize that they're in a world of hurt, it's funny to me that they listed it in the deal tank, aka the chum bucket, at 180 and dropped it by $20,000 as if that's going to make any difference. Bro, you missed it by, you know, $70,000, $80,000 from your reserve to what the car actually got bid to. I just think these guys are stuck with the car. I was going to say this guy, but we were talking about a dealership, the RMC guys in Florida. I just don't know what the hell they were thinking putting this car on PCAR Market. You would think that those guys being in the Porsche market as much as and for as long as they have been, that they would know better. Bart, what do you think of the results of this auction?
You know, I think it's overrated price-wise. This is another example of a race car look, and it doesn't look like fun to drive. That's my personal opinion on this. Would I buy it personally for my collection? No, not even for like the number that I mentioned, like 72,000. And I think that's the issue these days. Some of these cars, especially the special builds, are so overbuilt that people look at them as like, what am I buying? And if you have to value it like the seller does in this case, trying to value it for, in my opinion, at least twice the number that what it should go for, no matter how much money they put into it, then we have a problem, and that's what the market is reflecting these days.
Yeah.
JP, I have a theory. It's entirely possible that RMC was consigning this car for somebody, and the guy was asking too much money for it, and they might have said, hey, you got to come get this car because nobody's going to buy it for your asking price. And they're like, well, you know, you guys didn't even try and sell it. And they said, hey, we'll list it for you on an online auction. The only place they can go to protect this guy's asking price would be PCAR Market, who would allow you to dictate the reserve because they don't dictate it themselves. And so my guess is they probably knew this car would fail to sell. They let this guy, you know, instead of them pouring cold water on him, they let PCAR Market's audience pour cold water on him, and now this guy can pick up the car and take it home because he's asking too much, or he takes a different tact and he changes his price, which apparently they might have done post-hammer anyways. But at 170, this car is not going anywhere. I actually think the $100,000, $120,000 for what you get here, that's all the money. He probably should have taken the 105 and sold it. So there you go, JP. Onward and upward.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think it would have brought a little bit more on BAT. That engine is insane. That engine would cost you nearly $100,000. So I don't think this car is that far away from being something that could retail. But we already talked about that. I think your take that the seller wasn't doing something foolish, the seller being the dealership that was consigning the car for the actual seller, was trying to, well, this shows an understanding of the difference between the platforms. PCAR Market will let you set any reserve, whereas Bring a Trailer won't. So that's as good a take as any. They're trying to teach RMC is trying to teach their seller, their client, a lesson in humility, and boy, they got their come-ups here. Is it a disaster that this car didn't sell at $105,000? Should it have brought more? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and let's see if we can answer that question. Is there a disaster going on for sellers on Bring a Trailer with the other listing that we talked about on Cars and Bids? What do we got?
JP checking in on our 2021 Ferrari SF90 Stradale on Cars and Bids. Our car is listed out of Tampa, Florida, and showing just 2,600 miles on the odometer. JP, a terrible colorway to try and sell for Ferrari. Silver with a black interior and red steering wheel and seats and dash and door handles. This is a car that will appeal only to the person that ordered it this way. And in the secondary market, I would say a colorway like this is going to be a very big hurdle to overcome. But let's not forget, we're talking about SF90s, cars that cost about $700,000 or $800,000, depending on how you equip them. Were quickly selling for $1 million when they first came out. But today, those numbers are completely different, as these cars have been sliding in the marketplace ever since the 296 GTB, which is also a hybrid and just about the same performance for a fraction of the initial cost, have hit the road in the United States. So Ferrari is killing the market on the SF90 with the introduction of a new model. So this guy has decided to get off of his car. And JP, I told you when we began, the average selling price for SF90 right now is $590,000. So I gave you a bid of $500,090. You took the under at $499,090. And Gerd, the Yahtzee King, who was in studio with us, took the over on my bid at $515,000. Bart, I know you are well versed in Ferraris. I'm sure you're well aware of the recent slide. We should say almost 18 months now. This car has been sliding in value from a high of over $1 million to now they're just over $500,000. Bart, what do you think this low mile but sort of polarizing colorway would bring on cars and bids, which is definitely the JV of the auction platforms? What do you think would have happened here the other day? Give us your number.
I think this car should have sold for $480,000, even though that the seller probably knew what was going on with this market with the SF90s. I think they're amazing. I drove them multiple times, but it's still some sort of a production model. Sad to say for Ferrari, but they're out there, and there's tons of them for sale compared to like a couple of to even a couple months ago when they were like pushing higher than $500,000. I do like the color combination, but I'm a weird guy in that matter. I'm still very European.
Yeah, I don't know what Michael Deeb has just got a big old heart on for this colorway. I love the colorway. I think it's awesome. I don't know why he's itching all over it, but I could be convinced that this is not a colorway that's very popular for sellers. I don't know. What was the result? What happened? Is this a popular colorway after all? What happened with this car?
I think Bart's got a crystal ball. JP, our car hammered for $488,800, but it failed to sell on 26 bids. So Bart was smart in saying that thinks that the audience would give 480. It went to 488.8, but it failed to sell, which means our seller was not as smart as Bart, and very few people are when it comes to these types of cars. But I think he's still thinking he's going to get $600,000 for the car. If he's really intelligent, maybe he thought 550, but silver with red, terrible photography, and on cars and bids, no chance in hell, JP. This car didn't even sniff 500 grand. And I'm saying it missed the mark by, I'm not saying $100,000, but by at least 50 grand on what this car would be worth. 2,600 miles, polarizing colorway. This car was so DOA, JP, we could have just ordered a coffin for it. He's got a firm grip on it now. And I think if he goes to BAT is going to use this result to hammer this guy for an even lower reserve than he's more comfortable with. So I think he's really screwed himself up. This is a disaster, total disaster for the seller, because I don't know where he pivots to, except maybe to just trade it back into his local Ferrari dealership or consign it with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which would give him an opportunity to be on a list to get another big car that may actually be able to recoup some of the money that he obviously is going to or has lost on this car. Bart, what do you think of the results of this SF90?
I think it should be, like I said, a realistic number at $480,000, and the seller should have taken any offer in that ballpark. Like, I mean, he probably bought it for way more, just like everybody else did, assuming that it would be a good investment. But I think that's the market that we're in today, especially since the last couple of years when money was readily available in the United States and worldwide for cars like this. I mean, the SF90 is still an unbelievable fun car to drive and to own, but it's not a good investment in your wallet. And I think that we have to watch out for that in the next couple of years. I mean, there's multiple more Ferraris that are super incredible. 812 Competizione, I mean, those numbers are going through the roof. Anything special Ferrari will always bring money, always. But anything that looks like a little bit of a production car, sad to say, but an SF90 at the end of the day is a little bit of a production car.
It's a hybrid. Gerd brought it up. He's like, what the heck? Who wants a hybrid Ferrari?
Yeah, who wants a hybrid Porsche 911?
Right, and then that's coming. All right, guys, what do you think of the results of this SF90 that Doug DeMuro couldn't get done on his site? Is that a disaster, or is that just normal depreciation that they should have expected? It's not really that big a deal. Let us know in the comments below. We've got another car that we made a prediction on the last episode. This one I think is very telling, but kind of a head scratcher. Surprised me, this result. What's the next car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, we're going to check in on the 1991 Honda CRX SI with a 5-speed manual that was on Bring a Trailer. Our car is showing just 23,000 original miles. And JP, 1991 was, of course, the last year for the CRX. So this was just about the highest spec. They did make an SIR that we didn't talk about when we introduced the car, but I'm not sure if the R was ever sold in the United States. That 160 horsepower and presumably a VTEC. But anyways, this car is in Raleigh, North Carolina. The car looked to be in unbelievable as new condition. Not the cliche as new, but I mean like this car looks like it's being presented on the showroom floor despite being, what is that, JP? Like 30-something years old, 34 years old, 33 years old, and 23,000 miles on the odometer. The original MSRP, JP, which again we didn't mention, was just $11,390. John, you and I both love this car, and we talked about how this generation of cars and stuff like this, when you find it in this condition, they instantly become collectible. I went high at $50,000. JP, you chased me over the cliff and raced me to the bottom of the lake at $65,000. And Gerd, the Yahtzee King, who was in the Rami studio for the last show, split the difference between us at $55,000. So the highest number ever spent on one of these things at auction is like $38,000 and $39,000. Two past results over the 2 past years on classic.com. Bart, what do you think this spectacular, clean, low-mile example would have brought to the Honda fanboys on Bring a Trailer?
Well, quick story. Back in 1991, I used to live in Belgium as a young kid, and this was my dream car. The Honda CRX was the car that kept me awake, and I really wanted it. But as a young kid, I used to work at a bakery at like, I don't know, maybe $2 an hour. It's been a long time ago. So I've always been looking at these CRXs, even a couple years ago, and I was amazed how expensive they got for good cars, because most of them, especially back in Europe, were crashed. I mean, they were overly fast back in the days. They're still fast for what they are. And I think what's happening with this car, what we need to look at is this is a dream car for a 50-year-old guy like me, because it brings me back to my youth. And that would make me pay a lot more than what it should be worth. I think this one with 23,000 miles as of today, with a couple Porsches and a couple other cool cars in my collection and a couple dollars in my account, I would not hesitate to pay this guy $30,000 to $35,000. But let me put a firm number on it: $34,000. I would probably pay for this car to go back to my youth and relive the dream.
34,000.
34,000.
Absolutely. So 34,000, you would be the closest, but you would be under. Our car hammered for $41,277, where it sold on just 13 bids. So JP, surprisingly low action for this car. It did close very early in the morning, 10:15 a.m. West Coast time, which is kind of a bummer. I think you want it to close a little bit later in the day, and I think you get more people. But 13 bids is kind of a surprise, JP. It is interesting to listen to Bart, though, talk about he's got a collection of some fantastic European sports cars, but a car like this that meant something to somebody in his youth, this would be the unusual and car to finish out or round out a collection of cars, something that's completely different from an array of Porsches or Ferraris or Jaguars or whatever you're into. And John, you literally called it, and Bart is your living test subject of that thing, and he said as much, that for $35,000 he'd part with the money in his pocket to round out the collection with his favorite car from his youth. So John, what do you think of this result, and what would be the favorite car from your youth that you couldn't afford when you were a kid, or maybe you did but you'd like to have one again to round out your collection?
Yeah, this car I still believe and I still think was worth, or should have been worth, more. One of the comments on the episode from Sunday night, and the comments are always where you get all the really good information, guys, so make sure you're checking in on there. One of the Nerd Herd members mentioned that apparently it was discovered in the listing that one of the quarter panels had been replaced on this car, so it's not 100% original, and that's probably what held everyone back. I suspect I still maintain my number. I think that 65 is definitely what one of these could go for, even in a down market, because there's a lot of guys like Bart, and I think that a lot of guys like Bart would spend a lot more money if it were, in fact, an all-original one. I mean, the idea, frankly, Bart, that you could get one of these for 30-something, that's goofy, man. That ship has sailed. What do you think of the results?
Me personally, again, I think this falls under the category of like the VW Scirocco, but it all depends on like who is your buyer. Like, I'm not a gambler, even though that we all live in Las Vegas, but like I would bet some money on the fact that the guy that bought this car would be in my age group with that same vibe of like, whoa, this is straight back to my youth. And
yeah, but then why didn't it bring more money? Because we're all agreeing on that. We're on that point. So why did it only get to 40 grand? Why didn't it get to the number I thought?
Because it's an unusual car in the United States to begin with. Back in Europe, these cars used to be everywhere, like an Opel Kadett GSI, which we don't really know in the United States. Volkswagen Siroccos, I think it's in that ballpark too, that the people that know these CRXs and that really want to buy a good one are people that already have like a little bit of a collection with a lot of emotional value attached to it. I think that's my problem.
You keep making my point. You keep making my point that it should be worth more. These cars were popular here in America. I mean, they were ubiquitous. They were way more common than Scirocco's or Mark IIs or any of that kind of stuff. Do you think it's something like maybe just that people are scared to spend money right now? Because I think basically we're agreeing 100%. We're on the same vibe. All three of us are basically going, yeah, 50-year-old dudes want this car because it's youth. But I still feel like it's stalled out. I don't think 41 is nearly enough. Especially, yeah, go ahead.
My personal opinion on why this car sold for only, let's say, 41,000, which I think is a good number for this car, is that a lot of people these days still think about like, hey, maybe it's worth 60 grand, and for $60,000 I can buy something else that would get me into a Porsche, let it be a 912 or a 911. I mean, a lot of people are happy with a $60,000 911 these days, and I think that's a little bit of the problem too. Like, it's not a really super popular car that you can take to dinner with your girlfriend or your wife, and some guys probably that have that budget sitting in their account are bidding on a Toyota Land Cruiser, other things in that price point, and that's why I think that this at $41,000 is a good number for this car.
Yeah, I don't think that this. I mean, at 41 grand with a replaced fender, I bet the seller is probably happy. We were trying to get him on the show. He actually reached out to us. Apparently, he's a fan. He's one of you guys. He's one of the Nerd Herd. So maybe we'll get him to come on some other time to talk about it. But let us know what you guys think of the results of this CRX. Who? Somebody got a Yahtzee? What are you talking about?
Yeah, so Randy's telling us there's a Yahtzee alert, and Randy's awarding it to Brian, who bid 42,000. So that's pretty close, right? That's Yahtzee-ish. And then, but Michael S. also bid 42,000. I don't see Randy handing him a trophy, but either way, good job, guys. The Nerd Herd was all over it because most of the bids were in the 40,000. Very few chased you, I, and Gerd up over the $50,000 mark. So the herd was all over it. Thank you, Randy, for pointing that out.
I think Randy got a Yahtzee on the IROC on the 911. So lots of Yahtzee. I mean, that's the thing. The Nerd Herd always knows better than us. All right. Is there a disaster going on Bring a Trailer? We are going to figure that out. We've got predictions coming up right after this. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas.
If you don't... You could win this Lotus Emira from Vegas Auto Gallery at Vegas Auto Fest. Hi, I'm Rami from The Rami Show on YouTube, and I've teamed up with Vegas Auto Gallery to give anyone who goes to Vegas Auto Fest a chance to win this car. Get your tickets at vegasautofest.com and come to Red Rock Country Club Saturday, September 21st to win.
Spectator tickets are just $20 and kids under 16 are free. So get your tickets now for a chance to win this new Lotus Emira.
From Vegas Auto Gallery. Vegas Auto Fest. The drivers are coming.
Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if bid nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. All right, guys, we are back. Thanks for sticking around. Are you excited about Vegas Auto Fest? I can tell you we are. Anthony from Our Smiths has made a custom watch for the show this
I've
year.
seen it.
It is so dope. I want one. There's only going to be one. Maybe he'll make another one afterwards, but it's, as far as we know, it's a one of one, and the only way to get the Vegas Auto Fest 2024 watch is to show up to Vegas Auto Fest, and maybe you'll win it. You could also win that Lotus Emira from Vegas Auto Gallery. We are also giving away F1 tickets. It is going to be quite the show. Bart, you going to be out there with all your Porsches?
Oh my God, 100%, but not with all of them. I might bring one or two, I guess.
Oh, come on. You got a fleet of, you've got a gaggle of fans that will drive your cars. You got a entourage.
Yeah, I got messages weekly like, can I borrow your car? My kid's going to go to a prom. My daughter's going to get married.
Yeah, that is, the struggle is real when you have a nice car and people know about it. It's like winning the lottery. Don't let anybody know. But there will be signs when I have a Learjet. Okay. All right, guys. Is there a total disaster going on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, and PCAR Market? We made predictions on Sunday for a few listings that we analyzed. And looking at those results, at least two of those were pretty darn disastrous. We've got new predictions to make, and maybe these predictions will help us answer the question, what's the first car on the list? Michael D.
All right, JP, we are going to start off with a 2017 Dodge Viper GTS-R Commemorative Edition with the ACR package. Our car is an alumnus on Bring a Trailer and is currently listed at a Tulsa, Oklahoma, showing just 1,300 miles. So JP, as the Dodge Viper was bowing out, the top of the line specification was this package called the ACR, which I think is American Club Racer. You got this incredible front splitter and these little canards. You got forged wheels and the side exit exhaust, this massive rear wing and these incredibly bolstered seats. You got stickier tires, like a real R compound tire. And when this car dropped, people were taking it to every racetrack in the United States and resetting the lap records for a production car. This thing is an absolute beast on the racetrack. I don't know what this thing would be like to live with as sort of a day-to-day, and I hate that's such a silly thing to say about a supercar like this. But, you know, if you were going to take it to dinner or something, I do think this car is pretty stiff and pretty uncomfortable. But as something to take on the Overton run or your favorite back road in your neighborhood, or if you like to do the occasional track day and you've got the money to wield something like this, there are very few cars that this car looks up to. JP, back in the day when one of the earlier series of the Viper came out, the car had incredible success in like Le Mans racing over in Europe, and they did a commemorative edition of the Viper back then with American flags on it, and those cars trade for really good money. They were very tacky with a blue interior, but as this car was bowing out, the GTS-R ACR came as a commemorative edition, and it's basically a homage to that colorway that the Viper raced in, which is white with the blue stripes. Cunningham raced with this colorway at Le Mans in an American car. So this is America's sort of informal national colorway for international driving. And the Viper took it back to Europe and kicked ass with it. And so as the Viper was bowing out, they decided to do a limited edition of 100 of these cars. Our car is number 80 out of 100. And from the moment the last ones were sold, JP, these cars have been trading for over sticker price. So this car was listed back in April 26th of 2021, where it was bid to $230,000 and it failed to sell. At that time, John, it only had 840 miles. But that might as well been a decade ago because the market is so different today. So despite having 1,300 miles, I will say this car is definitely worth more money today. Inflation and the market on these ACR final edition Vipers has truly gone up. So I think this guy is going to do really well with this car. I think he's in for a big payday. I really like the car because the performance is there to match. And while the interior doesn't hold up against a lot of its competitors, the last version of the Viper is way better than the early versions of the Viper. So I do like this car. And I'm I'm a dork when it comes to these special editions and limited colorways and anything American racing, like, let's go red, white, and blue. I'm all about this car, John. I admit it. I'm a fanboy. I love this thing. So JP, I hand it over to you. This is somebody said, "Hey, will you hand me my hammer?" And then you went and grabbed Thor's hammer and put a hole in the sidewalk. That's the Viper ACR. What do you think?
Love this car. Love Vipers. Always wanted one. One of the few cars I've never owned. Look, this car built in 2017 is more Porsche than anything Porsche built in 2017. When you think of a Porsche, especially a classic Porsche guy and a classic Porsche nerd like we are, we love the old, the no analog brakes. We love having 3 pedals. We love having no nannies. And by 2017, you couldn't, if you wanted a top-of-the-line Porsche, it came with flappy paddles. You couldn't get a 3-pedal one. They all have nanny controls. They all have traction controls. They have all kinds of things that are going to try to save you. This car is still like the old Porsches where it says, hey, get in this thing, have a lot of fun, and the car might kill you. And that's the appeal to me. Bart, what do you think of the Viper ACR?
Well, I'm so 100% with you, but I'm also 100% with Michael. I'm the kind of guy, I bought a bicycle and it was a limited edition. That was the main reason why I wanted it. Because I believe in limited edition products. This Viper is a dream car. 100 units, this is it. Like, you really want to own this car. There's only 100 of them made in the world. Will it go up in value? Absolutely. I think this is the car to own for many good reasons. You can take it to a Topanga Canyon drive in Los Angeles and have a lot of fun with it. And later on, like Michael said, you can go to a restaurant with your girlfriend or your wife and have fun with it as well, and everybody will love it. People will take photos of it, and that's why you want to buy this car. This is an attention grabber like nothing else. You can park a 911 GT2 RS right next to it. People look at this car. It's like parking my VW bus right next to a Ferrari F40, and people take photos of my bus. So I compare it with a luxury 2-seater, 7,000 horsepower VW bus. My evaluation or valuation.
You don't need
this
to get to
car-
the number yet. We'll give you a chance.
I'm interested to buy it.
Yeah, he wants to buy it. Bart's bidding on it already.
No.
I love it. I don't think your wife is gonna like it unless she has an OnlyFans page.
No.
This is definitely not your typical chicks kind of car. It's gonna mess up their hair and it's gonna be hot. All right, Michael D, what's this car gonna bring?
All right, JP, there are bids coming in on this car as we're doing the show. So anyway, take a look at this. JP, our car is sitting at $237,000 on 12 bids. Actually, bid did not come in. It was at $237,000 on 12 bids. JP, I think that this car might not make it to 300 grand, but I think it's going to come really, really close. I'm going to give you $299,000. And I say this car sells. And Bart had a really great take about this car. You can buy this car and it's going to go up in value. It's purely speculative. If you go put 10,000 miles on it, you're not going to achieve the money that Bart is talking about. But if this car stays a 1,000 or 2,000 mile example, by the time it's 10 years old, which is basically 3 years from now, this car could be a $500,000 car easy. Again, because there's only 100 of them in the world, and by the time we get there, a couple of them will be gone. So I think there's a really sunny outlook for this car as an investment, and it's because of the production numbers. So I'm all in at $299,000, and it will sell. And I think the car is going up in value.
I think this car has a great future, but I don't think it's a short future. I think the near term, I think we're going to see things getting tougher and tougher out there. Getting someone to drop $300,000 on a contemporary car. I think we're going to see big numbers still happen on those super rare classics like we talked about in the last episode. At Monterey, we saw great numbers for things like Murcielago 6-speeds and Diablos and those young timer type cars. This car, I don't think quite qualifies. It's too new. I think it hasn't hit the bottom of the depreciation curve. I'm going to say 265 and pass it on to Bart. What do you think?
Somebody will buy this super unique gem that will only go up in value for $312,000. 312.
All right.
Bart thinks it's going to break 300. Where's the nerd herd at? Looks like it looks like most of the nerd herd is under 300, closer to between me and Deeb. So Bart, I think Bart's buying it. I think you saw it here first. You would look good in that car, Bart.
Don't tell my wife.
You gonna put a temp? She doesn't have an OnlyFans page, does she?
No, but she's in Belgium right now.
Okay, good.
So she doesn't.
Scott Derrickson outbid Bart, so Scott's buying it at $320,000. So there you go.
You and
JP,
Scott are bidding on this thing, Bart. All right. What do you guys think this just dastardly mean demon of a car is going to bring a trailer? Is it going to get all that money? Is it going to break 300,000, or is it going to be a disaster spin out at the car show into the wall at 250 and fail to sell? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And what's the next car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, we are taking a look at a 2021 Lexus LC500 convertible that is one of 100 called the Inspiration Series. Our car is an alumnus on Bring a Trailer and is running currently at no reserve. Located in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, our car is number 4 out of 100 Inspiration Series units, and it has just 4,200 miles from new. JP, the car was listed in August of 2023, where it sold for $127,000 back in the day. And it's worth knowing that I want to give you the MSRP because they have it on the alumni thing as I talk and pull this up. John, our car was originally listed for its original MSRP at $121,000. And I think we'll come back to that number. But again, you're talking about this special colorway and this special interior. It's a numbered series. I think that works with boutique manufacturers like Ferrari and Porsche, and you might even throw BMW into that mix because BMW doesn't make the same kind of units that Mercedes and Audi and Lexus make. But when Lexus tries to make a 1 of 100 and it doesn't have like 100 more horsepower, I just don't understand what we're doing here. It's like somebody in their bean counter department was like, oh, make a numbered series and give it a special coat of paint or a different wheel, and people will line up around the block. And maybe they're right. They buy them like that. But I don't know that speculating on buying one of those is a good investment, or paying a premium price for one and expecting that it's either going to hold its value or go up. I certainly would not want to be the one holding the bag on this as a place for me to park $100,000 in a Grand Tour. I'd rather have something different. So this car doesn't do it for me, JP. I imagine it's fun to drive, and I like blue cars, but this blue colorway is hideous, and matched with basically like a sand dollar light, almost dove gray interior. I mean, this car isn't even usable. JP, the steering wheel is white. Like, you're going to get it filthy dirty. It just doesn't it's too pretentious for its own good, and I'm not buying. So, John, I hand it right back over to you, and I kind of spit as I hand it over because I look down my nose at this car. It does not turn me on in the slightest. I want to say it's DOA, and I'll tell you really quickly, when I put my first bid in, I put it in before I looked at the price, and the current price is over my bid. So I'm shocked at where it's at. I might be eating crow here in a day or two. But John, I don't believe in this thing at all as far as where to put your money. I think it's stupid. So John, to you.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about a 1 of 100 Viper, and now we look at this 1 of 100 Lexus, and to me it looks like a ski boat. I mean, does it come with an inner tube to ride behind it on the waves? I mean, this is just a wetsuit. It just looks dumb to me. I don't know why anyone would want this car. I don't know of anyone who collects Lexus. Lexus makes a great car. Lexus makes the #1 most reliable car from, I think, Consumer Reports just came out with a big thing. Lexuses are great cars, but they're the car that you drive every day. when you have something like a Ferrari or your Viper ACR in the garage and want to be comfortable and cruise, I think you can get a car that looks just like this car for probably much less, and no one's going to know that this is a special anything. It just looks like I don't know. This car, I'm not with it. What do you think, Bart?
Well, my opinion is, as it is with Lexus, it's obviously a heck of a good car. It's super reliable. Everybody that I know that owns a Lexus, they still drive it, even after 17 years. Look at the LFA. What the heck? Like, that car climbed into values like there's no tomorrow, and they sell like hotcakes. This car is, again, like John mentioned, it's a very rare car. It's one of 100. But who is your potential buyer, and who's going to shell out way over 100 grand for this thing? Because I do believe that it will sell for a good amount of money. I think this car will go to the favorite secretary of a big business owner that sits at his office all day long and has like 700 employees and 10 secretaries, and that one favorite secretary, the 52-year-old lady, will end up with this car because he's going to buy it and give it to her, and she's going to think it's like a beautiful Lexus convertible, which it is. It's not my thing, it's not my style, but I do like the color combination on it, and I will see somebody drive around in this thing and be very happy with it. So,
Steve, what's it going to bring?
All right, JP, our car is currently sitting at $104,000 on 9 bids, and it closes tomorrow. JP, my initial bid was 101, and the base price for this car is $101,000. The Inspiration Series package was $18,800, and when it sold last time, it sold for $127,000 on 32 bids. And so it's low miles and it's rare and it seems like it's showing really well. I just don't get it, John. So this is just miss me with it. I will go to, I don't have a bid lined up because this is just
today. It's an hour show. What are you doing?
I know, $114,000 where it will sell. I don't think it quite gets back to MSRP, but what do I know? It's just not my jam. 114,000 to you, JP. I dare you to take the over.
It's a new enough car that someone will buy it for a decent amount of money. I don't think it's going to get hurt because of the big downturn. I don't think anyone's going to make a big profit off of something like this. Before I give you what number I think it will bring, if you're watching this and you're in the nerd herd and you haven't hit the thumbs up yet, please do so now. There are more of you hanging out in the nerd herd right now than there are thumbs up. We got to get more thumbs up to grow that nerd herd. And there are a bunch of new nerd members in the nerd herd tonight, and the nerd herd is doing a great job welcoming them. If you are new to the show and watching it right now, please go in there into the live chat and introduce yourself. You're going to make some great friends. Everyone in there, really cool people. We got people from all over the world, from Australia, New Zealand, New Orleans, all the news. We're having a great time tonight.
Idaho.
I'm glad that you are hanging out with us. Of course, the Spud Syndicate in Idaho. That's the greatest that's the highest density point for nerd herd members, I think, is Idaho. All right, I think this car is going to bring $105,000, and I don't care. Bart, what do you think it's going to bring?
I think that business owner will literally cut a check, not even a wire, because he's older, so he still writes checks for $117,000. That's what I think is going to happen.
That's a good bid. Yeah, look, who cares how reliable it is? It's not like anybody's going to drive it long enough to have it break or get into a zone where it would possibly break. I don't know. That's my take. What do you guys think this quite pretty but kind of boring Lexus convertible will bring a trailer? Will they be able to fill up the back seats full of cash? Or is it going to be a disaster? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And we are answering the big question. Is there a disaster going on Bring a Trailer? The next car on the list is one that's it's a car that we know. Sort of. What's the next car on the list, Michael Deep?
I don't know, and you know, but somebody in the studio really knows. JP, what we're talking about is a 1988 Porsche 944 Celebration Edition, which I believe only came in Zermatt Silver with the stunning black, white, and gray studio check interior. This is a base 944 JP, so your 2.5 liter is just going to make about 150 horsepower. This is not the normally aspirated S specification that was closer to 190 horsepower, but they only made 500 and they all came in this colorway. As such, finding one with low miles, clean condition on a domestic title is something to celebrate. Our car is currently listed out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and showing 67,000 miles. JP, take it away.
Well, actually, I'm going to pass it off to Bart because it was in his garage. Actually, I will ask a question before it goes to Bart. This was Bart's car for a little while. When I saw it, it was in a warehouse, and it had a bunch of hail damage. Bart, did you fix that? And what do you know about this car?
I bought this car and I loved it like a while ago, and it did have a little bit of hail damage history to it on the roof and the hood. We were able to fix that by my close friend John, the dent guy, like I got him in my phone. So $300 later, all the dents are out and the car looked amazing. This was one of my favorites in my garage, so to say. But the interesting story here is that my other half and my kids really didn't like it. And I think that's a sad thing for 944s, 924s. I really like them. Back to my youth years, this was a dream car. It's still a dream car to me. That's why I bought it at one point, because this was such a good, unmolested, untouched car, besides a little bit of the hail damage. The interesting thing about this car is that it came with an option code with the extra leatherette on the seats, because 500 silver ones and Zermatt silver, Michael, you're right, and then 500 black cars were built to celebrate the 100,000 units built for the 944. No, was it? Yeah, the 944s back in the days. There was a lot of positive vibes around this car when it came out, and it was pretty popular in the sales books back in the days, and then it was like kind of forgotten through the years, and every now and then a good one shows up. This is a good one. This is the one that I drove around town, drove it to Vegas, drove it to a couple of car shows. Flawless. I loved it, but the pressure in my family and my friends was too big. So I decided to sell it, and then super cool father and son duo out of Las Vegas convinced me to buy it for the son. And the deal that I had with him, and I think I can be very honest here, was like, okay, I'll sell it to you. This is one of my little babies in my collection, but the pressure is too big. Nobody likes it in my family. I still love it. But I had to give in, and I told him, like, I'll sell it to you guys under one or two conditions, but condition number one is, like, if you ever sell it again, give me a call. And I never had to call, so I'm kind of surprised that it's on Bring a Trailer right now, and I'm following the car up because since my other half is in Belgium for a couple of weeks, she doesn't really know what I'm doing right now. I might bet on this car.
Bid on it now.
Is it no reserve, or does it have a reserve on this one?
It has a reserve.
It has a reserve.
So yeah, and I know what I sold it for. So
well, I mean, this is Bid Nerds. This is inside information. We're here to help the buyers. How much did you sell it for?
So I sold it for $13,500, which I think was like way under the value, because I think this car is worth so much more. It's a celebration edition. It's one of the few that are left. Go find another one in this condition with these low miles. I mean, it's a pretty car.
I'm pretty impressed by what you guys were able to do with the hood, because when I saw it, I mean, because I had a chance to buy this car, I want to say, I think it was offered at like 11 or something like that, or 10. And I was just like, yeah, the hood damage and the roof damage is too great for me. But I didn't have a buddy that is a dent remover. Look, the guys that are selling this car are, I mean, this is an awful listing. The photos are literally out of focus, half of them. There's all kinds of dumb little things that I think they could have finished up on. Maybe, Bart, that you didn't get to this car. What about service? Has this car had the timing belt done recently? Has it had a clutch? Has it had the water pump? What do you know about that, Bart?
As far as I remember, the clutch was really good. Like, I mean, the car still has 65,000 miles. Mm-hmm. There was not too much history that came with the car when I bought it. It's not like an old 911 where you got like a binder full of receipts and you can track down the history. That was not the case with this car, but the Carfax revealed regular service on the car, and the research that I did came out very positive.
But I mean, that's the thing. I gotta push you on that. The timing belt
was done in 21.
It was done in 21.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a record for that. Okay, because this is the kind of car that if you don't know when the timing belt was done on a 944, do not even turn it on.
No, because it's expensive and very difficult to replace it, which is another reason why Porsches get so expensive lately, is that the cost to repair is
if
through the roof,
that
but
timing
that's a
belt
different story.
fails,
Yeah.
it is going to destroy the engine, and you're screwed at that point
Yeah,
because
you're
people
done.
don't want to touch them.
You're done.
I've seen the timing belts fail in the driveway of the shop when the car was there to have the timing belt replaced. So it's that important. Do not skimp out on the timing belt on one of these. Okay, Michael D, what's this car going to bring?
JP, they do mention in the listing that the timing belt, water pump, distributor cap and rotor, thermostat, and radiator hoses were all replaced in 2021. And then they replaced the battery and the alternator in preparation, I think, for the sale. So
I actually did that
there you go.
after they bought it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there. Yeah. So it looks to be, relatively well serviced and certainly low miles, and it looks to be in very nice condition. JP, the problem I have is that nobody in this country knows what the Celebration Edition is, and they don't bring a premium price at all. In fact, the average selling price for a base 944 is like $16,000 or $17,000, and the average selling price for a Celebration Edition is just $11,000. Our car is currently sitting at $6,900 by way of just 3 bids, and it closes tomorrow. Oftentimes, JP, we see cars Porsches bring 100% more money than what they are listed at going into the last day. And I think this guy is praying for the same thing to happen. At $6,900, JP, twice as much would be like $14,000. We know that he bought it for $13,500. I say he doesn't quite get his money back, John. I'm going to say $12,500. And again, I'm not bidding on the car. I'm bidding on the market. So Bart, please don't hate me for this. I like the car. I don't understand why these cars don't bring $20,000. They might not bring a 911 driving experience, and thus there might not be justified to be considered $100,000 cars. But 944s bringing in the teens of thousands of dollars is basically criminal. These are really, really fun cars. When the 944s were on the road, they were considered amongst the best handling cars in the world. But I think this car, with these assets, like you said, John, it's a poor listing, and I just think it's going to struggle. So $12,500 to you, and it's not what I think the car is worth. I think it's what the hammer is going to happen at. So JP, to you.
Yeah, I think your numbers are right on. I think it is what it's worth. 944s are worthless. I love them. I love transaxle cars. I love 924Ss. You know for a fact that I called you last week going, here's a 924S that I'm all excited about buying. And I probably would have bought it if the guy was a little bit more flexible. That's a whole other story. And I would have probably paid more for that 924S than I would pay for this particular 944. The commemorative edition, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That interior is beautiful, and that's something that might get someone to pop for because that's about the only thing about this car that makes it interesting in any way other than just normal 944 things. I'm sure this car is a lot of fun, but I would only buy it if you can steal it. I don't even think it's going to break $10,000. I think the market is way too soft on these, and I think things are way too rocky. And someone that has a spare $10,000 laying around or $15,000 is not going to spend it on this car. So I'm going to say $9,944 and pass it on to Bart. What do you think? What are you going to pay for this car, Bart?
Oh, Jesus, I fell in love with it again.
I know.
I think the market will tell us that I sold it really well for $13,500. This was in February. This is not even 6 months ago. If the market will hammer it, and exactly what Michael said, like there's a difference between what the hammer will tell us tomorrow and what the future value will be on this car too. But I think it's gonna hammer for a lot less than I sold it for, and I don't want to feel guilty, but I might buy it back. But I think it's gonna go for $12,500.
You think it'll actually get up to 12.5?
Bargain.
Okay.
It's a bargain. This is a future $100,000 plus car. Go find another celebration edition. Michael is right on top of it. There's 500 cars built. How many are left? As far as I know, 71 of them.
I'll give Bart the $12,500 spot, and I'll go back to my original bid, JP, which was $11,000. So I'm going to go. So you're 9,944. I'm at 11, and Bart's at 12.5, and we'll do that. That way, we've got a good spread, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. But I think we all agree that Bart sold it really well in the spring. The market is soft, and unfortunately, while the kids who know that studio check interior is cool, and there's only a few of them that the factory made, nobody else seems to care, and these cars are unfortunately worthless. That is a bummer for a pretty cool car.
I want to add one more thing, not to inspire bidders or push people away. That's not the point here. Like, the point is, like, this is an unbelievable rare Porsche. Unbelievable rare. As far as I know, there's like 71 units left. This is a rare car. This should go for way more, but we'll see what the Hammer will tell us tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. It's like a rare Porsche is one thing, but it's got to be a rare 911, or it's got to be a rare 911, or it's got to be a rare 911. If it's not a 911, rare doesn't seem to matter too much, especially when it comes to the transaxle cars. You can definitely say there's exceptions for like 356s or even some of the 914s, but even the most rare 914 doesn't really bring that much money relatively.
Sadly,
it's a bargain, though. That's not to say that it isn't a fun car. I've owned a bunch of these, and I'd like to own this one.
I'll bite on that take, JP, and say that if this were a 1988 944 Turbo S, it would be rare and worth a lot of money, especially with 67,000 miles. We'd be talking about a $65,000 to $85,000 car.
Yeah. Michael, this car is more rare than a Turbo 944.
Yeah, but a Turbo 944 is just a way better car. I mean, really, what's the difference between this car and a regular 944?
The options, the studio interior, the rariability, the VIN number. I can go on and on.
The interior, that's it. The only thing is different is the interior. What other options?
That makes it super cool too. It brings you back to the old days when we were all young.
There has to be people around. There has to be people that remember that. I just like that. Yeah. I just don't see people sitting around going, "Oh, I remember the Commemorative edition. Oh, when I got my first BJ in the back when I was at the drive-in watching T2. I mean, whatever. It's like." Oh wait, did I say that?
But it is a fact. It is a fact, and then we're going to end the topic of the 944 Celebration Edition. When it was sitting in my garage among other cars, nobody looked at it, and it made me so sad. Like, why is this happening? This is such a beautiful car. Look at it. Open the hood. Like, I'm almost trying to sell it to whoever was looking at my cars, but they all turned towards the 911s and my old diesel tractor Porsche that I owned for a long time when I was young.
All right, guys, are the sellers of this 944 commemorative, or I'm sorry, celebration edition will they be celebrating tomorrow when this car brings over 15 grand or any money over what they bought it for? If they get a penny over what they bought it for, they better throw a party, because I think they'll be in luck. I think they're going to have a pity party that they'll be celebrating when this car doesn't even break 10 grand. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below or over there. It's not too late to say something in the live chat. Huge group in the live chat tonight. Thank you, guys. Thank you to all of the new folks that are hanging out here tonight, all the new Nerd Herd members. You guys rock it. Hope you guys come back for more live shows Sunday and Wednesday night. Michael Deeb is having a good time. I don't know. Someone's telling jokes over here.
The Nerd Herd is killing it. So Philip Craig says, I'd rather have that 9.3 Vigan from a few weeks ago, which is just so funny to me.
Yikes.
I'm like getting nervous that I might end up with a letter from an attorney next week.
Well, dude, did the guys even transfer it? I mean, they bought it from you and tried to flip it already. I think they kind of duped you. Or, well, I mean, look, you got the last laugh. There's no way they're getting more money than you sold it for. So good luck, guys, with your 944. Hey, Bart, is there anything you want to plug? Where can we see Camper Chef? Is there any of that kind of stuff going on, or what's going on?
Oh, there's a lot of good ideas with Camper Chef. So I'm all about camping and cooking. So we're talking about a Porsche 911 road trip cookbook with a roof tent on my car. So I'm sponsored by Roof Nest. My friends at donated a beautiful roof tent for my car, and I think
I've
that's
seen
a
you climb
good
out of
idea.
that thing, sleeping
Yeah.
at Rensport Reunion last year.
Yeah.
All right.
Had a lot of fun with it. So, but yeah, I'm working on that. Like, I mean, I would love to bring out a cookbook because there's like a million different cookbooks, but I don't think that there's a Porsche related cookbook.
Well,
with
there
a
you
roof
go.
tent,
There's a niche
so,
market. Bart,
yeah.
make the cookbook, and we will let everyone know where to get it. We can't wait to try out some of the recipes there. Shout out to my buddy Michael Deeb over there. Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Absolutely, JP. As you well know, but nobody else does, me and Haggerty have decided to part ways, so I am now an independent. If you've been thinking, I really want to work with that Michael Deeb guy, but that Haggerty thing that's hanging around is preventing you from doing business with me, I am free. I am an independent. I'm talking to you, Chris Carbine. But if I can help you sell a car, please feel free to reach out to me at any time at the McDeeb on Instagram, or reach out to me through the channels of the show. I am still in the business and still cooking with gas. So thank you.
Make sure you get your tickets for Vegas Auto Fest. It's not too late to register your car. Do it now. Do it. Get the tickets. Vegas Auto Fest.
Get those nerds!